Hey everyone, I'm Christine Gritman and I am here with Social. I do this show every week where I talk to one of my smart friends about a different topic relating to social media, small business, all that jazz. And today I have a return guest, the fabulous May King Tsang. Woo!
Hi!
Now,
How are you, Christine?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Good, very good. Thank you for asking.
I'm so glad you're back. Last time I had you on to talk about FOMO creation, which we are going to talk about just a little bit. But today, I really wanted you on because a lot of times we feel like on social media in general, we just feel like we're putting stuff out there, we're trying, but it's just going into a void. No one's seeing it. So we're going to talk about how that applies to Twitter and how to make sure your tweets get seen, because you can't very well create FOMO if no one's seeing your tweets, right?
That's exactly right. Absolutely right. Yep.
So first, tell the folks at home who maybe missed last year's episode what a FOMO creator is, what a FOMO creator does, because this is sort of a term that was kind of invented for you, because you carved out your own very unique niche. So tell us about FOMO creation.
So for the watchers and listeners out there, FOMO means a fear of missing out. And it's basically a way of creating that that buzz and excitement for your business out onto social media, so that when people see your stuff, they'll think, oh my goodness, I need that product right now. I need that service right now. And that's what a FOMO creator is all about. Now, my role of FOMO creator, as you said, it kind of evolved because actually I was a professional live tweeter. For my own business, but for other clients as well. And then it sort of naturally descended into other platforms, which is where the term FOMO creator came about.
Can we talk about what live tweeting is?
Sure. So I attend events for myself or for my clients, and some people will write notes on their in the computer. Some people will write notes in their notebooks. What I do is actually write notes on Twitter. So I will listen to the speakers who are speaking, and I will tweet at the rate of knots. That's what a live tweeter does.
And that is how we met, because May King and I, there's a company called Metricool that sort of keeps track of hashtag usage at various conferences. So we were at Social Media Marketing World tweeting our respective thumbs up. We were both, I learned to live tweet from the Low HUD newsroom, actually, when it was first sort of becoming a thing that journalists were using. And so we were live tweeting our thumbs up. We were on the leaderboard. And because we are the type of people we are, we said, I'm going to find that person because they're clearly very cool. And that's also how we met Holly Chessman, who was also there on the leaderboard. And, of course, we have since developed a wonderful friendship. We've seen each other on both sides of the Atlantic on numerous occasions. And I'm very excited to get to see you again as soon as it is legally possible. So Twitter. So first, why is Twitter a place for things like live tweeting? Why is Twitter a place for things like FOMO creation? Why Twitter?
Because Twitter is the place to go for breaking news, breaking events. That's where all the journalists hang out. So in order to create a great, great PR for yourself, to showcase what you're up to, it's fast, it's dynamic, but that's where a lot of event organizers will tend to go to Twitter to really put themselves out there as the event to go to. There's another reason for that as well. Twitter is the only platform that has opened up its API, which is some technical term.
Yeah.
But basically,
it's code.
It's code. So it means that we can generate reports and see who's talking about us and how easily that's trackable. So Twitter is great for events because a good event organizer will have a hashtag. And so if everybody who is attending the event uses the hashtag, it increases your chances of your tweets or your company's tweets being seen by other people who are actually at the event, but also, more importantly, those people who weren't able to attend the event but are lurking and having a look to see what's going on at that event. So that's why Twitter is the place to go for when it comes to creating FOMO for your conference.
And you touched on something that actually last week's guest, Dan Knowlton, touched on, which is that Twitter is great for social listening. As you said, it's a little more open to being able to tell who's talking about you. So can you delve into that just a little bit more? Like, how do you find out who's talking about you?
Yeah, so love Dan. I shared the stage with him a few years ago in Lithuania.
Wow. I shared the stage with him in Newcastle. Not quite the same.
No, it is. It is
lovely, though.
So it's great.
It's foreign to me.
Yeah, there you go. So it's a great tool for listening. Yeah, absolutely. Because there are lots of platforms out there that you can put in, the hashtag to see who's talking about you. And then there are some, reporting tools that can actually track who's been talking about you as a brand, you as a person, not just a hashtag. And this is especially great for brands and crisis comms, as they call it, so that if someone is saying something disparaging about your brand, then you can go in quickly and actually find out what the problem is so that you can resolve it, because Twitter is the place to go to when someone wants to have a pop and a moan.
Yes, it really is.
Right. So that's why Twitter is a good place for social listening. The fact that Twitter as a platform has opened up its platform so that you can measure, who's been talking about you, your brand or your hashtag and so on, then we can actually go in and do a deep dive through these reports and see whether we can engage with people who are interesting.
I love that. And to that point, so you mentioned one potential I had a ghost in Newcastle, which Dan didn't. That is true. And API apparently is Application Programming Interface. Thank you, Tim Lewis.
I didn't want to get geeky by saying application programming space.
Oh, we love geeks.
Hi, Tim. How are you?
So to your point, you mentioned one application as to why, when doing the social listening and finding out that people are talking about you, you mentioned crisis comms and people having, a moan and complaining about you on Twitter is one time when you might want to jump in and sort of try to counteract that and try to repair that relationship. What are some other ways that people can use that social listening to sort of get in on the conversations that are already happening about themselves, their brand, or their event?
Well, I mean, there are people, because Twitter is a great tool for getting into conversation with people. You will get people who will go onto Twitter saying, I'm looking for, a graphic designer, or I'm looking for a web designer, or and so
I'm looking for a social media strategy trainer. Hi! I'm looking for a FOMO creator.
Exactly, right? So you can actually then go into Twitter and find out, listen to see, that's a social code for listening apparently. So, listen to see who is looking for those particular products and services. And when you find them, you go and say, oh, hey, hi, how are you doing? And start building a relationship with them. So it is a great place for looking for work. It's a great place for, journalists do it. They want to they want to look for particular people to catch a particular story. And so they will put a call out on Twitter, looking for somebody. And so if
they also want to see what people are talking about. Also, as a journalist, right before I left the newsroom, we actually had a training on how to use Twitter. And part of it was about breaking news, and the fact that someone tweets something doesn't mean that you can pull it into your news story and use it. You have to ask for consent. But then we also talked about how it's a great way to see what people are even talking about, so we can know what to cover. Because that's really the old school method of you send out a press release and then the journalist knows to cover your thing, isn't as much how it works anymore. Now it's journalists listen and see what's on the rise and what might be a story, and then they hop into that. So you're absolutely right there. Twitter's such a great place to be found for news.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And as an expert.
So so it's a great place for listening to see if there are opportunities for you to gain work. It's a great opportunity for a great platform for you to see what journalists are searching for, and if you match that profile. And if you're lucky enough, well, not lucky, because actually there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
You're
behind
clever
it,
enough.
But They're clever enough. Well, if you build relationships with people on Twitter and you've built your community, then when journalists are looking for that expert, then you'll be recommended. So when I'm a FOMO creator now, but I'm on all the socials as Making Tea, and officially on my certificate, I'm one of the top 50 recommended speakers of tea in the world.
Wow.
So a couple of years ago, when a journalist put a call out and said, I'm looking for a tea expert, I got a lot of notifications. A lot of people pointed the journalist to me, so you've got to talk to Making Tea, and then that's how I got, that's how I got some work. So you can not only look for yourself to look for those PR opportunities, to get featured on TV, radio, national magazines, local newspapers, and so on, and TV. But if you've built relationships so that people know exactly what you do, then you never know, you can get referrals as well.
I love that. So let's take it a step further. So we've established how it can be great to do social listening for your own brand, your own company, your own self, your own subject area, and to find out who's talking about you and hop in on those conversations. But what if it's not about you? How do you use Twitter to get your own tweets, whatever it is you have to say, out there and seen? I can't think of an example of something to be talking about, but do you get where I'm going here?
So I think to really get started in business generally, it's not just about social media. If you think back to when you first started your business and you go to a networking event, you actually go to a networking event and you go and start talking to people. Okay, now you wouldn't thrust your business card at someone, would you, and say, hey, this is what I do, give me a call. Not usually, if you want to get any work done, right? But what you do is engage in a bit of small talk. Fabulous business card. Engage in small talk, get talking to people. Don't look across over the shoulder of the person that you're talking to, just to see if there's a better prospect. He's coming in.
Is that Seth Godin?
Small talk. You're allowed to go and talk to Seth Golden if he's actually in the room, right?
Good to
know. But yeah, when you're at a networking event, you start building relationships with people, you start doing the small talk, you start talking to people, and then eventually you may start, talking business. And on Twitter, it's exactly the same. Exactly the same. You've got your virtual business card there already, your bio. If you've done it correctly, you've got everything all there. So you don't need to, thrust that virtual business card at someone, because if someone finds you interesting enough, they will click on your bio and find out who you are and what you do. So before you get to that point of virtually, thrusting a business card at someone, start talking to people. And that's what Twitter's all about. You just engage. So the few times where I've gone to an event and I've been tweeting, I've been listening to the speakers and I've been tweeting, and then I noticed that a few people liked my tweets or they shared it, I started started talking to them and getting into conversation with them, just having a bit of a chit chat. Noticed that they happened to be in the same room, so I'll go over and talk to them. That was before we were allowed to go out and play. Of course, virtuals is a bit more challenging.
But you turned what could have been a one-touch, one-way interaction into a relationship simply by seeing an engagement that was already happening and recognizing it as an opportunity, not just a fleeting moment.
Absolutely. And that's how you can get your tweets to be seen, by being nice, by being a nice human being, by being friendly, by being helpful, by being, showcasing a bit of your personality, because what sets you apart from someone else, a competitor in your industry, is it's your personality. Technically you might be better than that other person, but if people don't like you as a person, then they're not going to do business with you. So you need to get people to get to know who you are before you start talking business. So being nice, being engaging, by all means showcase your expertise on Twitter. Put up blog posts that you've written, or do vlogs of things that you've talked about. By all means do that. But to really get your tweets noticed, you need to start engaging in a conversation with people.
Well, how do you find those conversations? Let's say you're starting from scratch, you don't have followers, you're not following anyone, you're just kind of new to this whole Twitter thing. How do you even find who to have conversations with?
Well, what are you interested in? Or actually, let's rewind that back. Who are the kind of people that you're interested in talking to? You know, who are your ideal clients, I suppose. And, you know, in business, you'll have heard of this before. You know, who's your avatar? You know, what is you know, if they were to walk through the door, what do they look like? Are they male? Are they female? What age range are they? What kind, you know, are they working for themselves? Are they working for other people? What kind of hobbies do they like? That kind of thing. Now, once you know your avatar, the kind of ideal customer, then you go and search for them. You find out about it. So you go on Twitter. So how do you search? You go on the Twitter search, and I believe Dan, you know, those who missed broadcast, he talks about the advanced search features, which is great. So go and do a bit of searching and look for those kind of people, you know. So when I had a business in tea, I was interested in people who love going to the arts. They are, their politics were, you know, sort of left of centre. They like artists, they like music.
They drink with their pinkies up. They're a little more cultured.
Yes. So
my parents are tea drinkers, and that totally describes them. They're into the arts. They read the New York Times.
Amazing. So I would, you know, follow, you know, I would follow people who, you know, I would follow the New York Times and see who was engaging with the New York Times, for example, and see who was engaging with those, and have a look at those people to see if they have shared similar interests. You know, anyone who's interested in art, interested in museums. So those are kind of people that you can follow. And definitely have a look at their bios and see if there's anything that you can tap into that you have a shared interest with. So if someone says that they are a cat lover or a dog lover, they've got 3 children, that's how you can start in a conversation. You know, have a look at their tweets, see what they've been talking about, see if there's a way that you can kind of, you know, engage in a conversation there. So I mean, imagine going back to the networking event scenario. You know, if there was a circle of people who are talking, and generally what happens is 2 people are talking, but then everyone else is listening. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it grows, and you're waiting for that opportune moment for you to sort of interject and get involved in the conversation. That's effectively what you do on Twitter. So when you found someone that you really want to talk to, you don't just go in and say, oh, hey, hi, and thrust your business card at them. Have a look at their tweets, see what they've been talking about, maybe, you know, schmooze them a little bit, like their tweets, or maybe share their tweets, you know, and when you share it to your followers, you can say, really love reading this blog post, and these are the reasons why, or something like that. So when you know, when you pay a compliment to somebody, they're going to stand up and notice, aren't they? And that's how you can sort of engage in a conversation.
I love that. And Tim is being an awesome little wingman here, because he's pointing out 2 things that we should also get into, which are Twitter lists, including Twitter lists other people have created. It's sort of shooting fish in a barrel there, right? But we'll get to that. And then also Twitter chats. So it's up to you what order you want to tackle those in, if at all. But I know you've used both of those things.
Absolutely. So yeah, thanks, Tim. You're amazing. So Twitter lists, yes. So there are, I think there's a big objection that people have of Twitter. Oh, it's too noisy, it's too many people, it's too many people talking about, you know, what they're having for tea.
It's a fire hose. I've heard it described as a fire hose.
Right. And what you can do is you can decide, well, I'm not interested in absolutely everything. I'm only interested in this. So you can create a Twitter list, as Tim said, and you can, you know, just watch the people that are in your list and what conversations they're talking about. So I have an interest in artificial intelligence, for example. So, you know, I can create a list of some of the leading experts on AI and just listen and see if there's an opportunity for me to, you know, to talk to people. Before I went to some conferences, it was actually Tim who recommended a few conferences for me to go to. I would have a look at the conference organizers, put them into a list, and listen to see if there's any opportunities for me to start talking to people.
Yeah, the speakers too. That's a really great tip. When I'm speaking at a conference or attending a conference, I'll often take a look at the speakers and add them to.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And then, of course, Tim did say that you don't need to create your own list. You can actually find someone else's list because you can actually create a public or private list. So if someone has created a public list, they've done the work for you. You can subscribe to that, and you can see, who's talking there and get engaged in that particular way. So I was in Australia for about 6 years, and then I came back to the UK in 2016. So I effectively had to build my business from scratch again. And that's exactly what I did. I started following people in the UK. I started, getting into conversations. I would have a look at Twitter lists to see if there's any Twitter lists that I would be interested in that I could subscribe to in order to get involved in some conversations. And then, of course, Tim talked about Twitter chats, which is another way that I started to get to know people. Because I've been away from the UK for such a long time, people might have forgotten me. I'm sure they did forget me. So I had to sort of rebuild my base again. And so getting involved in Twitter chats, which is basically like a TV program, but on Twitter, where people are talking, engaging. It's kind of like a chat show, but lots of people are talking.
Yeah, let's talk about what a Twitter chat is, because people have trouble visualizing that. They picture it almost like Zoom, and it's not. So how does one participate? Well, first of all, how do you find a Twitter chat to begin with?
Well, unfortunately, unless I'm very much mistaken, I don't think that there is like a directory of Twitter chats, unfortunately.
No, because anyone can start one. I could decide to start a Twitter chat, in 20 minutes.
So there are some people who have created blog posts in the past of Twitter chats. And so I think that's what I did, actually. When I came back, I searched for Twitter chats and found a couple of blog posts that recommended some Twitter chats. Some of them were obsolete. And some of them were still active, so I got involved with them. It is an hour every week at same date, same time for an hour, and it's on a particular subject. And
you use the hashtag.
And you use a hashtag. So there's always a guest who is asked some questions, and then that guest will have some answers on that particular subject. But what's great about Twitter chats is that you're not only listening for the answers from the guest, but you can actually also take part and give your words of wisdom as well. So, Christine, you're very active on the Twitter chats.
My following grows like crazy every Thursday. If you look at my Twitter analytics, every Thursday it hops on up. And the great part is I've learned how to not make it then dip back down. I've learned how to maintain those connections that I gather on the Twitter chats. But that has been by far the biggest way I've grown my following, by showing up regularly at key Twitter chats, engaging with the other participants, and sounding smart.
And, because you have such a great wealth of knowledge of social media, people, even though Christine, you may not be the guest, because you offer so freely really valuable information as part of that Twitter chat, people are going to watch you and they're going to follow you because you freely gave that advice. So, if you want to, like you say, grow your followers very quickly, get involved in certain Twitter chats and listen to people, but by all means get involved in the conversations as well. So generally, most Twitter chats for the first 10-15 minutes, depending on how the Twitter chat structure is, you'll start to get to know people, and the first question is, who are you, what do you do? So you get to know, so it's kind of like a networking event, and then the questions will come through and you start answering them and start engaging. And that's how I quickly re-establish myself back in the UK as a tea expert. And then because I've built relationships, I kept showing up every week at the Twitter chats. When that journalist put a call out, then that was how I managed to get recommendations for that journalist.
How did your thing that you are known for, you're still known for tea, of course, but you are also very much known for Twitter. So how did you make that shift, and how did Twitter help?
It was because I attended events. So I attended events, I would listen to the speakers, and on my own account, Making Tea, I would be tweeting. So, I did a count of the last few conferences that I did, and I tweeted on average 1,200 times for a one-day conference.
Wow.
And so that's how I would establish myself as as someone who's an active user of Twitter. And I also wrote articles about Twitter as well, funnily enough on LinkedIn. And I talked about how I would use it, but not just reporting on what the speakers have talked about at the events. I also engaged with people as well. So if I read a tweet and I really enjoyed it, I would tell that person, rather than click on like, I would say, oh, hey, thank you so much for that tweet. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And comment. So that's something that I say to people a lot when you're on Twitter. Reply, don't comment. And if you're sharing stuff, don't just retweet. Retweet and comment. Add your brand, add your mark onto that tweet on top of that.
You can even add a GIF.
Yeah,
that's what I do on Twitter.
Yeah, because it shows your personality. It shows the kind of person you are. And, in order for people to get to know you as a brand, you need to know who you are as a person. So if you do, your gifts, your wonderful gifts, like Christine's, that, make people smile, make people feel warm and cherished, and it's personable, it's specific to Christine's brand. You're not going to forget Christine, are you, because of the way that she's interacted with you. So engaging, not like, not retweet, do more than that. That's how you can start building relationships and talking. So that's what I did. I went to conferences, I tweeted, I started talking to speakers, attendees. I met up with the attendees at the conferences, built a relationship, and then started, pitching to them if the time was right, and managed to get some work that way.
So I've been to many conferences with you at this point. I've literally sat next to you while you've been tweeting, and people wonder all the time. They're like, is it really all her? Does she have some sort of like artificial intelligence thing helping her out? And no. So first of all, she tweets like this. I've started tweeting with both thumbs. Like, I gotta kind of QWERTY it. But she tweets like this, one finger, which is... But then the other thing, May King, that's really amazing is that you're putting out this huge volume of tweets. So you're tweeting, you're doing your live tweeting thing. You're already doing that at a level that most people could not even fathom, like being able to be the stenographer there. But you're not just putting that stuff out. You are engaging. You're replying to people's tweets. And here's the craziest part of all. I see you hanging out at conferences, speaking to people in real life. Your head is not buried in your phone the whole time. And that is really the most impressive part of your presence at events. The fact that you are somehow putting out this huge quantity of content while also being present. So
and I think actually it was one of the conversations that we had. I think it first of all, I remember we were talking about it, and you were like, how do you do that? And then you actually gave me a theory, and I thought actually that might ring true. So when people have asked me ever since, Christine, I've just taken your theory, which is that because I speak Cantonese very badly, but I speak Cantonese and English. So people often ask me, how do I tweet? And I think I kind of split my brain into three, in that I'm listening for the next golden nugget whilst I'm tweeting, and then I just continue to do that. So I listen, I tweet, but I'm listening for the next thing, and I just sort of do that on a cycle. But I am also, being a bit sexist, Tim, if he's still on board, most women can multitask really well.
Yeah, we can.
And one of the things that I can
We're
do
built for it.
And one of the things that I can do is to listen and tweet at the same time, and I kind of hold a conversation as well with somebody. But yeah, it is when you're at an event, it is important to obviously engage, be present with the people around you. But when we're all listening to the speakers, I like to give value to my followers in listening and then sharing the information that I've just heard from the speakers at the event.
Tim thinks you're just hyper from all the tea.
Yeah, that's probably true.
You know what I'm gonna do after this broadcast? I'm inspired. I'm gonna go look. I just got a notification that someone added me to their Twitter list of, whatever experts on whatever they think I'm an expert on. I'm gonna go and look at some of the Twitter lists that other people have put me on and check out who else is on them. I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna do that this afternoon. I'm inspired. Thank you so much, May King, and everybody. It is not May, it is May King.
That's right.
Another thing that I just want to mention is that, I have my branding on my tweets with like my GIFs, and I often use a little red heart. You don't do this from the get-go, but I notice you do this with people you know well. You're great with the tea puns. I feel really bad that I didn't have the brain this week to come up with any tea puns in the promo for this episode, and I feel that was a missed opportunity.
Oh, that's okay.
I love that element of your branding. I love it. All right, so May King Tsang, where can people find you? Where do you want people to find you?
Well, on Twitter, of course.
At May King T.
At May King T. I'm on all the socials, so Instagram, Facebook, Twitter as May King T, May King Tsang on LinkedIn. Do connect with me there. I have launched a YouTube channel, so if you search for FOMO Creator, you should see a few things there. Because I really want to help people. A lot of your listeners are probably doing social media well, or they're just getting started, which is amazing. So what you're doing is great. But to take it to the next level, it's about live tweeting or creating live content when you're at an event, when you're at a meeting, and that kind of stuff. And so on my YouTube channel, there's a few things that I've done there which will help you, give you a few ideas on how you can create FOMO for your own business.
I love that. Thank you so much, May King. Again, I am Christine Gritman. I do this show every week where I interview my smart friends, and there is a podcast that I also release on Mondays if you would prefer to listen, or if you'd like to listen as well. Really, you can double up and do both. Thanks so much for joining me, and thanks, May King. Bye.